Okay. Yes. Okay. Audible ba ako? Naririnig naman ng maayos? Okay. Thank
Yes po,
you.
Miss.
Now, is psychology a science? Okay. So, basically, from the definition that I gave just a while ago, okay, psychology, as we define, no, that this is a scientific study of behavior and mental processes. When we talk about behavior, we talk about types of behavior. Number one, we have the overt behavior, and the second is we have the covert behavior. Okay? So I hope that as I discuss, yung medyo nagno-notes kayo, no? Kasi there are things here that I discussed na ano, no? What I mean, there are things that I discussed na wala doon sa PowerPoint ninyo. Okay? So I hope, no, may strong suggestion pa rin, pero strong suggestion that as I discuss, medyo mag-take down notes kayo. Anyway, so let me repeat, no, psychology is a scientific study. It is being defined as a scientific study of behavior and mental processes. So when we talk about behavior, we talk about two types. No? Number one, we have the overt behavior. And the second one is we have the covert behavior. What's the difference between an overt behavior and the covert behavior? Sana naririnig ninyo ng malinaw yung aking pronunciation. From the word itself, over, no? Ibig sabihin, these are behaviors that can be seen, that can be observed directly. No, ito yung mga nakikita natin, okay, na ginagawa ng tao. Overt behavior to, like smiling, frowning, 'di ba? Walking, no? Yan yung mga behaviors na yan. Okay, smoking, okay? So those are examples of overt behavior. However, for covert behavior, from the word itself, cover, no? Cover, nakatago, okay? So this cannot be directly observed, directly measured, okay? Katulad halimbawa, of course, yung ating language or yung thinking processes natin dyan. Okay? So, yan ay isa sa example, no, ng mga covert behaviors. And then, when we talk about mental process or mental processes, kasi nga, that's the definition, di ba? Scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Pag sinabing mental processes, we talk about language, di ba? We talk about ano pa to? Perception, okay? So yan ay bahagi, no, ng mental processes. Now, going back to the question that is present, no, on your screen. Is psychology a science? Of course, the answer is yes. Diba? As per definition given. Now, science, okay, uses an empirical approach. And when we talk about empirical approach or empirical, diba, this talks about facts, no? Kailangan makatotohanan yung mga pinipresenta nating mga observations or mga data, okay, na meron tayo. So empiricism, I think I will not, give you so much of this because you are done, no, with John Locke, okay? John Locke is an empiricist, no, and he stated that the only source of knowledge comes through our senses. Example of that one is yung sense of sight natin, sense of hearing, and the like, no? So, syempre may taste tayo, may touch tayo, okay, yan. Now, talking about John Locke, diba, John Locke was a proponent of what we call the tabula rasa principle. Okay? Natatandaan niyo pa ba yung tabula rasa? The tabula rasa means a person was born, sabi ni John Locke, a person was born like a blank slate or tablet. Blanco siya. Okay? So, in which, sabi niya eventually, no, in which the information was conveyed through the senses are written. Kaya sabi niya ganon, in short, no, ang bata, okay, ipinanganak siya, wala siyang alam. But because he has senses, she has senses, no, so anything na ma-acquire ng senses niya, okay, nagiging information, nagkakaroon ng information ang brain niya. And so, yung pagiging blank slate niya, eventually, as he goes through life experiences, meron siyang natututunan. Naiintindihan ba yung sinasabi ko? Okay. So magtanong lang ha kung merong ano. What I mean, you raise your hand there. Okay, by means of, ticking the button. Okay. So empiricists dyan lang. Okay. So however, meron din syempre proposition ang mga rationalist people. Okay. And rationalism, if I may ask, sino ang founder ng rationalism? Sino? Aha. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sino? Ayun. Okay. Message. Okay, Descartes. Okay, si Descartes ba ay rationalist? Plato, ano to? Patanong? Okay. Hindi sure. Okay, tama si Adrian. Okay, so Plato. Okay. So si Plato, okay, bago ko banggitin yan si Plato, remember, yung psychology na merong kayo ngayon, what I mean yung course na tinitake nyo ngayon, before, it was under the branch of philosophy. Siguro, a refresher lang, or probably kung hindi nabanggit sa inyo, an additional information. Okay. Psychology was under the branch of philosophy. Kaya kung mapapansin ninyo, itong mga binabanggit na mga pagdating sa historical development ng psychology, ang mga pangalan dyan ay mga philosophers. Because then again, psychology was under philosophy. And eventually lang siya, it turned out to science when Wilhelm Wundt, okay, put, or studies about the conscious mental experience in the laboratory. And that is in Leipzig, Germany. Di ba? Okay, sa Germany. So, the first psychological laboratory was established in Leipzig, Germany. Anong taon? Nako, refresher lang ito. Anong taon? Ang psychological laboratory. Ayan yung mga basics, no? Information. Okay, it was in 1879. Okay. So, there you go. Puntahan natin tong rationalism na to. Okay, so for rationalism, so ulitin ko, no? So si Plato, sabi ng mga rationalist people or yung mga proponents dito, dapat doon tayo sa logic, no? Doon tayo sa reason. Bakit kamo? Kasi sabi nila, man can be fooled, no, by your senses. No? So, halimbawa, just like what magicians do, di ba? Dahil sa bilis ng kanilang mga kamay, no, they can create a lot of tricks. No? So, sabi nila, let's go to reason and logical argument. Are you getting my point? Okay? So, kaya, sabi niya, ang tao, madaling ma-deceive, no? Madaling maloko. Okay? If we will just rely on our senses. That is why yung existing view na yan, that knowledge could be gained solely through powers of reasoning and logical argument. Okay? So, syempre may mga issues pa dyan. Kasi what if, kung ang iyong tawag dito, kung ang iyong client, or should I say, yung tao na ino-observe mo, no, mahina, in terms of verbal facility, medyo mahina. So how can he be able to reason out, no, and to argue logically? Okay. So, but anyway, let us not go in detail about it. Okay. So, yeah, thus empiricism is the view that all knowledge is based on or may come from experience. Kaya andyan siya. Okay. Now, the empirical approach through gaining knowledge, okay, through experience, quickly became the scientific approach and greatly influenced in the development of physics and chemistry in the 17th and 18th centuries. Now, as you can see here on the picture, ayan, di ba? ang empiricism, all knowledge obtained through senses, which is not inherited. Parang leadership, no? So are you born to lead, or yung leadership ba is inborn or by nature, no? Nature is inborn, no? Yung second is nurture pala, okay? Now, the idea that knowledge should be gained through experience, example, empirically turned into a method of inquiry that use a careful observation and experiments to gather facts and evidence. The nature of scientific inquiry may be thought of at two levels. Number one is that to do with theory and the foundation of hypothesis, and the second is actual empirical methods of inquiry, which talks about naman experiments and observation. So again, no, ang may bahagi dyan yung mga senses natin. Okay. Now, what is the need for scientific methodology? Okay, or what is the scientific method? Okay. So, what is the scientific method? Okay. Now, if we will define, no, what scientific method is, the scientific method is essentially a step-by-step process that researchers can follow to determine if there is some type of relationship between two or more variables. So when we talk about scientific method, so ang unang-unang probably, no, papasok sa inyong isip yung word na step by step, yung word na tawag dito methodically, okay, arranged, no, or organized. Okay, so yan yung step by step. Now, the other is that while the everyday judgments we make about human behavior are subjective and anecdotal, researchers use the scientific method to study psychology in an objective and systematic way. Okay, so dito, medyo mahirap yung salitang objectivity or becoming objective kasi talagang sometimes when you conduct experiments or when you have to, you know, to do your conclusions, or when you interpret muna, analyze and interpret your data, probably yung biases hindi maiiwasan. Okay, again, hindi maiiwasan pero dapat kontrolado. Okay? And that is why yung scientific method natin talagang dapat objective siya and very systematic. Now, by knowing the steps of this scientific method, you can better understand the process researchers go through to arrive at conclusions about human behavior. So, step by step yan. Okay, so when you do it in a, you know, chronological order, when you follow the correct process, okay, so you'll be able to arrive at a very good conclusion. Okay, so that is for scientific method. So lahat ng pag-aaral na gagawin natin, no, if you will be making a research project or a simple, should I say, thesis or a baby thesis, okay, or ano pa ba, or anumang output, no, that is required of us, especially when at the end na, no, okay, of your course, you are at the end of your course. So basically, may mga requirements dyan na talagang you need to publish a paper, etc., etc. Huwag kakalimutan that it has to be done, okay, yung step-by-step process. Mamaya makikita ninyo how it is being done. Now, the need for scientific methodology. Okay, now we go with common sense psychology. So what do we mean by common sense? Pag sinabing common sense, alam naman ninyo to, common sense nga, no? This derived from own observations and experiences learned from other people. Natutunan mo to vicariously, no? So data we collect from everyday lives and their conclusions are subject to biases which limit their accuracy and usefulness. Okay? So ano daw ang sinasabi? Ang sinasabi is with common sense, no, nalilimit yung accuracy and usefulness ng conclusions. Okay? So now common sense, no, common sense psychology seems to work well enough for us actually, no, most of the time, no. At other times, though non-scientific data gathering can leave us up, no, in the air, no. Suppose, for example, that your significant other has just announced that she has been accepted for a summer program in other countries, no. So should you be worried? That's the question, no. Now, some of the non-scientific data you gather about absent partners can be reassuring, or should I say is reassuring, diba? This is another example. Bakit? Kasi we have this quote and quote, diba? Absence or makes the heart grow fonder. But some naman, okay, is not okay with that. Kasi ang iba namang kanilang prinsipyo or paniniwala is that out of sight means out of mind. And most of your data, if I may say, no, seems to support, okay, the former conclusion. So you are, or you see her off, no, at the airport, sabihin natin in good spirits. On the drive home, you remember all the stories you have heard about probably, no, London life or Paris life or nightlife, no, at kung ano-ano pa, without knowing which outcome is nearly, or it's really more probable you are likely to spend an anxious time or an anxious event. Okay. Now here, as common sense psychologists, we find that our ability, no, to gather data in a systematic and impartial way is constrained by two very important factors. Number one, ano nga ba yun? Yung sources, no? The sources of psychological information and our inferential strategies. Okay? Pag sinabing common sense, 'di ba? Common sense beliefs, if I may say, no, about behavior are derived from data we collect from our own experience and that we have learned from others. Okay? So yan siya. So often the sources of our common sense beliefs, okay, about behavior can be said unreliable, and the explanations and predictions that we derive from that are likely to be what's the term, imperfect. Okay, so again, common sense psychology does not help us, or does not help us know which one to use to predict behavior in any single instance. Okay, now we go to non-scientific sources of data. Very often, the data we gather as common sense psychologists come from sources that seem credible, yan, and trustworthy sources. Okay? Sino yung mga credible and trustworthy sources? So we have friends, relatives, right? We have people we admire, okay, people in authority, reports from the media, okay, books that we have read, and so forth. But actually, these sources are not always very good ones for obtaining valid information about behavior. Nevertheless, okay, psychological information, particularly when it is offered by people we like, we respect, what else, or admire, is typically accepted without question. Siyempre, di ba, you admire that person. So, anong gagawin mo? Wala kang magagawa kundi paniwalaan mo siya, 'di ba? Kasi hindi naman pinag-uusapan sometimes, no, na overlook na nga yung correctness, yung credibility ng information eh. 'Di ba? Basta itong taong ina-admire mo, sinabi niya yan, you believe easily. 'Di ba? Am I correct ba? Tama ba ako? May point ba yung sinasabi ko? 'Di ba? Like, alimbawa, sinabi ng nanay mo, 'di ba? Sabi ng nanay mo, alam mo ba, anak, ang daming namamatay ngayon, ganyan, ganyan. Eh, hindi ka nanonood ng news. Eh, dahil nanay mo ang nagsabi, without validation, without hesitation, di ba? Naniwala ka na kagad. Kasi, bakit? Sinong nagsabi? Nanay mo nagsabi. Kaya nga maraming naloloko na alam mo, ikaw lang talaga ang mahal ko. Ikaw lang nag-iisa sa puso ko. Di ba? Sino nagsabi? Yung boyfriend mo, mahal mo yun. Naniwala ka naman. Okay? Kasi nga, again, this could be, ito ng scientific sources sa pinag-uusapan natin, although we have to question, syempre, yung credibility and trustworthiness ng sources, but we tend to become what? We tend to trust, no, the people that just like what is present on your slide, no, yung mga people in authority, relatives, friends, people we admire, media, books, kasi nga kahit na hindi sila nagsasabi ng totoo sa pakiramdam natin, nagsasabi pa rin sila ng totoo. Okay? Clear ba yan? Okay. Sige, react muna kayo dyan. Okay. Para makita ko yung inyong, kung may natututunan ba kayo. So, ayan. So, what I am saying, once we believe we know something, we tend to overlook, no, instances that might disconfirm our beliefs, and we seek instead confirmatory instances of behavior. Now, if you believe that, say for example, the full moon brings out psychotic behavior, okay, merong mga ganyang belief no, ay nako, totopakin na naman ito. Bakit? Kasi bilog ang buwan. Okay. 'Di ba may mga gano'n? Nako, kaya pala tinutoyo na naman tong nanay ko kasi bilog ang buwan 'di ba? Minsan ina-attach pa natin, bakit ano ka parang moody ka? Kasi ang birth month niyan February, kulang-kulang, 'di ba? Yung mga gano'n, 'di ba? So again, 'di ba? Yung mga non-scientific sources of data, katulad ng binabanggit ko, yung full moon, okay, we at times, no, we associate it sa natin, sa mga abnormal behaviors natin. Kasi pag sinabing full moon, di ba, yung lunacy comes from the Latin word for moon. And you will notice that remember instances when people acted abnormally while the moon was full, no? And you will ignore actually, no, the many more instances in which no unusual behavior occurred. So it is also unlikely, if I may say, that anyone can completely avoid assimilating some myths, superstitious beliefs, okay, pop psychology explanations for behavior. Do you believe in the power of crystals? Sino sa inyo rito naniniwala dyan? Okay, Chinese New Year, naalala ko. Okay, Chinese New Year, ito usong-uso to yung yung bibili ka ng mga charms and crystals kasi ito yung mga malalapit sa swerte, di ba? Tapos ito yung mag-attract, wala ka pang boyfriend, mag-a-attract ito ng di ba, ng tawag dito ng men, okay, para magkaroon ka na talaga ng boyfriend if you if you are this person na tawag nila doon, no boyfriends, NBSB, di ba? So naniniwala sila sa mga ganon. Okay, so that's the power of what we call, do you believe in the power of crystals? Do you read your horoscope? Nag-horoscope pa ba kayo? Dati, meron pa bang horoscope ngayon? If familiar kayo sa horoscope, hindi. Ayan, yan. Sabi ni Jamie, siya, nagnanod siya, okay? So, yan, may horoscope. Pero ako, ever since, no, hindi ako naniwala sa horoscope. Kasi nga, lang yan parang, basta, feeling ko, fake news, kumbaga back then. Now, do you believe that dreams foretell future? Okay. Makikilala ko na sana na panaginipan mo, nakatalikod. 'Di ba? Nakatalikod siya dito sa ganitong place. Tapos naman nakakainis nung haharap na, ginising naman ako ng alarm clock, o di kaya ng nanay ko, nakakainis talaga. So yan, believing that dreams foretell future. Non-scientific to sources of data. Do you believe the lifeline in your palm? Okay, lifeline in your palm. Ano yon? Naalala ko, no? Pag pseudoscience to yung palm reading. Eh, minsan meron pa nga yung handwriting natin, di ba? Sabi gano'n, maganda ang sulat nito, maganda magiging kinabukasan nito. Pero pag sulat manok, yung parang kalahig daw ng manok. So, ito, masisira kaagad ang pangarap nito, mabubuntis siya ng maaga and the like. So, yan yung mga sinasabi. Yung lifeline sa palm, halimbawa, kung eto, titingnan ng mga, sabi nila, mga magagaling sa palm reading. So, pwede nila masabi, uy, hahaba ang buhay mo. Naalala ko nung mga bata kami, kapag gusto mo daw malaman kung ilan yung magiging anak mo, ang ginagawa nila, pinipindot nila yung wrist. Familiar ba kayo sa ganong laro? Okay? Pinipindot yung wrist. Tapos pag may bumukol dyan, may bumukol na 2, 3, ay, yan yung mga magiging anak mo, 3. Okay? So, ayan siya. Okay, so yan yung lifeline. Tapos pagka nakita yung mga guhit sa palad, ay, ito yayaman ka. Ay, ito, nako, Diyos ko, pasan mo ang daigdig. May mga ganyan. Okay? Ito magiging magulo ang buhay mo kasi daw ang gugulo daw ng mga guhit sa palad. Okay? So, ayan siya, non-scientific. Do you feel anxious during Friday the 13th? Meron ba kayong ganyang experience? Okay? Pag Friday the 13th, hindi kayo lalabas. Kakatakot. Bakit? Pag nasugatan ka daw ng Friday the 13th, ang tagal daw gumaling ng sugat. May mga ganyan, okay? So, yes, no, there are patterns of thought like that, lalo na yung mga oldies, no? Oldies but goodies, di ba? So, kaya minsan sa company, pagka pupunta ka, sasakay ka ng elevator, wala silang 13th floor. Ang pagkatapos ng 12, 14 ka agad. Diba? Mapapansin, hindi ba ito marunong magbilang? Okay? Kasi for them, in business, hindi po pwedeng may number 13. Malas ang number 13. Kaya yung mga ipinanganak dyan ng mga 13 ang date, nako, huwag kayong maniwala. Napakapalad ninyo. Maswerte kayo. Okay, ika nga. Okay, so yung iba, again, no, anxious sila on Friday the 13th. Okay, so those are for non-scientific sources of data. Clear ba to? Okay. Yes, okay. Now we go to the reasons to use the steps, no, of the scientific method. The scientific method is a set of principles and procedures that are used by researchers to what? Number 1, to develop questions. Okay? So, develop questions. Second is to collect data. And the third is to reach conclusions. Okay, mapapansin ninyo ito. No, excuse me. Mapapansin ninyo ito sa loob ng bahay. No, if you want to study something, no, you could, if you are very much aware of what's happening inside the house. So, from then, makakakita kayo ng mga ilang possibilities na pwede ninyong pag-aralan or pwede ninyong simulang isipin para sa inyong mga susunod na hakbang sa pagsasaliksik. Okay, number 1 kasi binanggit dito that are used by researchers to develop questions. Pag may napansin kayong kakaiba sa bahay, di ba ang unang-una niyong itatanong, bakit kaya ganito? Anong meron? Anong nangyayari? Okay? So pagkatapos niyan, meron kayong tanong sa isip, magko-collect kayo ng data para magkaroon ng sufficient evidence yung inyong katanungan sa isip. And then, eventually, will reach conclusions. Halimbawa, okay, sa loob ng bahay, napansin nyo, hindi nag-uusap ang nanay at tatay. Parang very odd. Why are they not communicating with each other? Pag mag-uusap sila, laging sasabihin, di ba, may itatanong ka, pwede bang ganito? Itanong mo sa tatay mo. Para bang laging may bridge, di ba? Okay? Laging, pakisabi mo nga sa tatay mo, ganito, o di kaya ganun din si tatay. Pakisabi mo sa nanay mo, ganito. So, you'll be able to develop a question, bakit kaya sila ganun? Okay? Number one, probably kaya hindi sila masyado nag-uusap, 'di ba? Baka meron silang hindi napagkasunduan. Tama, mali. 'Di ba? That's the easiest way of saying na or analyzing na hindi nag-uusap ang magulang namin kasi nag-aaway sila in short. Okay. Second, okay, hindi sila nagpapansinan kasi probably merong silang personal na tawag dito, personal na problema. Okay? So, madami kang questions na pwede mong ma-develop sa utak eh. Kasi that is out of your curiosity. And then, finally, no, after developing those questions in mind, para magkaroon ng sufficient evidence na yung iniisip mo ay tama, yung assumption mo ay tama, you'll collect the data. Okay? And then, na-collect mo na, na-gather mo na, ina-analyze mo yung results, no? Gumamit ka ng mga ilang statistical methods, and then you reach conclusions. Clear? Clear? Okay. Now, so those are reasons, no, to use the steps of scientific method. Now, in order to do this, psychologists utilize the scientific method to conduct psychological research. Okay. Now, before heading to the next slides pa, key terms to know. Before you begin exploring the scientific methods, there are some key terms and definitions that you should be familiar with. Number one, okay, that is hypothesis. Okay, hypothesis paulit-ulit. This is an educated guess about a possible relationship between two or more variables. Okay, an educated guess. Okay, so that is hypothesis. And hypothesis can be null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Are you getting my point? Clear? Okay. So the null hypothesis is always stated in a neutral form. However, the alternative naman is heading towards direction. Okay. Say for example, neutral form. There is no significant relationship between music genre and stress. Okay, or stress level of the of psychology, ano to kayo? Psychology 2B. Okay, kunyari yun yung title. Okay. However, for the alternative naman, there is. If the null hypothesis states that there is no, the alternative hypothesis would say there is a significant relationship, meaning there is a direction. Diba? May tutunguhin. Okay. After hypothesis is variable. Variable is any factor or element that can change in observable and measurable ways. So, variable is anything under the sun. Okay, anything that is under the sun is a variable. However, make sure that your variable that you'll be using in your study is first observable and second measurable. Okay, observable siya, nakikita at nasusukat. Halimbawa, kaya ba nating sukatin, ito ang title kunyari ng pag-aaral ng psychological research, the effects of music. Okay, the effects of music on the stress level of BAP 2B students. Okay? So, ano yung mga variables natin dyan? Yung stress, yung music, di ba? And the second one is the stress. Tama? Okay. O, ano ninyo to ha? Huwag kayong BBTO. Sumunod. Okay? Now, music. Okay? Music can be kunyari, i-measure siya via yung genre. So, merong heavy metal, merong classical music, ano pa ba? Merong rock music, di ba? Merong, ano pa ba? Hindi ko na, kunyari, yung tatlo na yan. Tapos, titingnan mo kung anong effect niyan doon sa stress level ng estudyante. Halimbawa, when students, when back to a listens to slow-paced music, tumataas ba yung stress nila or bumababa? Hello? Nami-measure ba? Diba? Nami-measure? Okay. Eh, paano kung yung back to a to be students rather, okay, nakinig ng heavy metal music, type of music, tumataas ba? Bumababa yung stress level. So again, a variable should be observable and measurable. Okay, clear? Clear? Okay. Third is operational definition. This is a full description of exactly how variables are defined, how they will be manipulated, and how they will be measured. So that is for operational definition. Now, of course, when we talk about self-esteem, kunyari, type ka sa Google, merong self-esteem na definition. Depende kung gusto mo Oxford, di ba? Kung gusto mo Cambridge, kung madaming definition na ibibigay sa iyo. But when you do it, when you define the term, okay, self-esteem operationally, that is how you're gonna be defining that one. How you will, mali. That is yung in terms of usage, okay, you'll be defining it according to how you use the term in your study. Okay? Naintindihan? Halimbawa, self-esteem, merong definition si Oxford Dictionary. Pero ikaw, ano ba yung self-esteem base diyan sa inyong gagamiting pag-aaral? Halimbawa, ang self-esteem pala is yung maayos na pagtingin sa sarili. Okay? Ang self-esteem pala ay tawag dito, ano ba? Self-esteem adds confidence, no? Or adds value as a person. Kunyari lang, okay? Yan yung definition ninyo. Okay? So, again, kung paano siya gagamitin sa pag-aaral, that's how you're gonna be operationally defining the term or terms that you'll be using in the study. Okay, so hypothesis, variable, and ano nga ba? Operational definition. Oo, yeah. Oo na, yes pa. Yes, Mayela. Okay, anong oras na ba? Let us just have a break muna. Okay, CR break. Okay, actually nasa CR kasi ko. Okay, so 10 minutes will do. Okay. So sige, I'll see you. What time is it? Wait lang stop share ko muna to. 2:46, 2. O sige, 3 o'clock. 15 minutes na lang. Actually, 14 minutes. Okay? 3 o'clock. See you. Sige. CR break muna tayo. Hello? Yun. Let's wait for the others to turn on pa their camera or para maramdaman natin silang aware. Present na sila. Ano nga ba ang dito ni Tiso? Ay, Tizon. Sino ang ka-group ni Christina Gaton? Christina? Jasmine? Around ka na? Jasmine Marie. Hinahanap ko si ano. Hinahanap ko dito si babae ba to si Dizon?
Lalaki po.
Lalaki. Anong first name niya?
Raiden po. Raiden po.
Wala siya dito. Ewan ko kung na-overlook ko lang. Absent siya.
Absent po siya today. Parang umalis daw po kasi sila nung fam niya.
Okay. Si Miss Gaton. Miss Gaton?
Yes.
May ka-group ka na?
Wala po.
Okay. So, okay sa'yo to do it alone?
Okay na. Na-message ko na po kayo yung last time po regarding po yun eh.
So, kaya okay nga sa'yo na ano?
Okay lang po. Nakagawa na po ako ng presentation po sa gospel reading.
So, you'll be scheduled March 21.
Okay po.
Kasi inaayos ko yung schedule kasi. Actually, during the break, ito yung ginagawa ko para makita ninyo agad. Okay. So, let's continue our discussion. Okay, so we're done. Let me just repeat about the key terms that we need to know. You need to know, okay, in experimental psychology or before exploring the scientific method. So, hypothesis, variable, and operational definition. When we talk about the variable, we have two types. We have the independent variable and the dependent variable. Okay? So, pag sinabing independent variable, katulad ng diniscuss ko na rin nung last time, no? This is the variable being manipulated in the study. However, the dependent variable is the outcome or the result. Okay? Result variable. Now, the steps of the scientific method are as follows. Number one is that we have to make an observation. Okay. Second is ask a question. Third is you need to test your hypothesis and collect your data. The fourth is examine, okay, the result and draw conclusions. And the last is to report the results. Okay? So, huwag kalimutan, make an observation, ask a question, test your hypothesis and collect data, examine the result and draw conclusion, and the last is report the result. Now, what what needs to do in making an observation. So before a researcher can begin, they must, or he or she must choose a topic to study. Once an area of interest has been chosen, the researcher or researchers must then conduct a thorough review of the existing literature on the subject. So that is coupled with your personal observations. Say for example, okay, napansin ninyo, okay, bilang mga Pilipino, kultura natin kasi we are part of collectivist, di ba? Collectivist culture meron tayo eh. Okay? So sa atin, this is just my observation. I do not know if this also your observation. Sa atin, isa sa strength natin is yung we have close family ties. Makipamilya tayo eh, di ba? However, isa rin ito sa maaari nating maging kahinaan simply because that those people who are already in their marrying age, actually mga nag-asawa na rin, okay, tawag dito, nagde-depend pa rin sa kanilang magulang. Okay? So meaning to say, yung mga there are youngsters, okay, that live still they are living with their mothers-in-law. Nagiging co-resident sila, if I may say. Now, that is just my observation. Sa individualistic culture, or specifically sa US, when you're 18, bahala ka na sa buhay mo. Tama? You live on your own, magtrabaho ka. Kasi yan yung mga individualistic culture. Pero tayo since collectivist tayo, part tayo ng, di ba, Asia. So tayo, kahit may asawa, may anak, nakatisan pa rin, nakatira pa rin sa magulang. Now, making an observation, problema ba ito o hindi? That's the question. Some would say, problema miss. Bakit? Kasi po, pagdating sa budgeting, lalo na kung walang trabaho ang magulang or matatanda na, paano sila? Tayo pa naman, mga Pilipino, meron din tayong konsepto ng hiya. 'Di ba? Okay, pag tayo ay nakatira sa ating mga in-laws, medyo hindi maganda sa pakiramdam simply because kapag gusto mong kumain, hindi naman po pwedeng ikaw lang ang kakain. Dapat bibigyan mo din, pakakainin mo din ang lahat. Or else, malilabel ka, no? Kung halimbawa, yung anak ng manugang, hindi, anak ng biyanan mo ay lalaki. Ang sasabihin, yung asawa mo, grabe, okay? Kumakain siya lang, hindi man lang inisip na kami din, hindi pa kami nagme-merienda or hindi pa kami kumakain. So yan yung mga style ng Pilipino. Now, sabi ko nga sa inyo, when you observe or when you make an observation, okay, titingnan mo, ito ba talaga yung problema? Now, if this is not yet well studied, ibig sabihin, hindi pa masyadong nabibigyan ng o napagtutuunan ng pansin ng mga pag-aaral. Now, pwede mo siyang pag-aralan. Okay, I encourage you to study that one. Pero kung sa palagay mo regarding self-esteem, 'di ba? Well studied na 'yan. Might as well do not dwell on that topic. Do not dwell on that research kasi well studied na 'yan. Are you getting my point? No? So another observation would be, bakit ang mga lalaki nitong mga nagdaang taon or nagkaroon ng pandemya, okay, or even hindi pandemya, bakit mas maraming lalaki ang mataas ang depression rate and yung tendency nila to commit suicide ay mataas? So observation mo yan. Nababalitaan mo sa TV, nababasa mo sa mga libro, okay? So question yan sa isip mo, ba't ang mga lalaki, no? Ang hihina naman nila. Kasi konting problema, wala silang naiisip na solusyon kundi ang pagpapakamatay. If that is your observation, make sure that you have gathered or you have existing literature review on that one. Pero it is being studied already na ang mga lalaki, kaya mas mataas sa kanila ang nagko-commit ng suicide, nade-depress, nagko-commit ng suicide, simply because they are not outspoken. Are you getting my point? Kumpara sa mga babae. Ang mga babae, when they have problems, nagmamarites yan. Diba? So, ikukwento yung kanyang pinagdaanan o pinagdadaanan. Kaya na-vent out niya yung kanya, nare-release niya yung mga negative emotions niya. Compared to gentlemen na tahimik sila, sinusolo nila problema nila. Kasi ang kultura nating Pilipino, pag umiyak ka, bakla ka. Are you getting my point? Kapag umiyak ka, nako, ang hina naman ng loob mo. So parang, practically speaking, you have to what? You have to put your mask on para hindi nila makita yung kahinaan mo. And that is just an observation. Now, if you've observed that these are problems or probably hindi pa siya problema ngayon but eventually will become a problem, they focus on that one and read literatures about the existing questions that you have in mind. Are you getting my point? Dati, ang isa sa mga tinitingnan yung mga miyembro ng mga LGBTQ plus A community. Okay, pero ngayon there are literatures na, okay, well studied na rin yung mga yung coming out process ng mga ng mga nasa LGBTQ Q plus A ba? QI? Hindi, tama. Q plus A community. So make an observation and then after that one, you ask a question. Okay, you will form a hypothesis, no? Which is again an educated guess about the relationship between two or more variables. You formulate your hypothesis. Okay. So parang ganito. Ang mga bakla ba, okay, ang mga bakla ba, as per observation, ang mga bakla ba, para mahalin sila ng kanilang kapwa lalaki o yung karelasyon nila, kailangan ba nagsusupport sila, nagbibigay sila ng pera? So, observation mo yan. O bakit maraming nangangaliwa? Or, what I mean, ba't maraming nagko-commit ng adultery? Anong dahilan? Bakit sila nagko-commit ng adultery? Diba? So, those are just your observation. And you ask a question by formulating a hypothesis. And then the third step is that you need to test your hypothesis. Okay? And collect your data. Now, in collecting your data, okay, this could be what? This could be with the help, no, of different research designs na i-apply mo. Pwedeng descriptive, pwedeng experimental, pwedeng correlational, pwedeng phenomenological, madami yan. Okay, pero i-discuss natin yan in the next topics that we will be having. And then the fourth is examine the result, no? Tingnan mo, inorganize mo, inanalyze mo na yung mga responses nila. Okay, pagkatapos you draw conclusion out of their responses using or applying your knowledge in statistics. Clear ba? Clear. And then the fifth one is report the result. So after making a psychological paper, psychological research, no, paper, okay, reporting the result means publishing your research output. Pwedeng in an academic or professional journal, okay? So anything that your paper can be subjected to a peer-reviewed journals, yeah, that is reporting the results. Clear? So these are the 5 steps, no, of scientific method. 1, make an observation. 2, ask a question. 3, you need to test the hypothesis and draw conclusions. Collect the data. 4th is examine the result and draw conclusion. And the 5th is to report the result. Okay?
Next question po.
Go.
Miss, paano po yung mga like research na hindi po napapublish?
Research na hindi napapublish?
Opo.
Okay. So, meron din naman tayong mga researches like just like what you've mentioned, no? Kasi syempre depende sa ano yan, depende sa author. Okay, depende sa author. Sometimes kasi the author would say no, would say I don't like. Okay? Pero kasi yung mga papers like eto lang my experience when I was in my collegiate, okay, nung college ako, yung mga output namin my professor did not, or my professor decided not to publish it. I do not know kung ano hindi ko alam kung anong dahilan. Baka siguro hindi masyadong maganda ang papel. Siyempre, there is a certain committee. May committee yan eh. May committee na bubuuin or binubuo, okay, para i-reviewin yung papel. So kapag ka ang output o ang research ay medyo, sabihin natin, yung foundation or yung if it is well studied already, so may mga chances like hindi talaga siya mapapublish. Not only dahil hindi gusto ng author. Kasi there is a specific committee na magde-decide as to whether ito ba ay dapat i-publish or hindi. Okay? Did I answer your question? Okay. Next is the characteristics of modern science. Okay, sige. Tapusin natin. 6 ito, 6 actually. Number 1 is empirical evidence. Pag sinabing empirical, this talks about facts, no? Dapat totoo, okay? And you can do that one via direct observation. Ikaw ang nakakita. Okay? So, directly observe, no, the behavior. Empirical evidence does not rely on argument or belief. Instead, experiments and observations are carried out carefully and reported in detail. Kasi nga, direct observation yan eh, no? So that other investigators can repeat and attempt to verify the work. Okay? So that is for empirical evidence. Okay? The next is what we call objectivity. O, pag sinabing objectivity from the word itself, no? Objective. So, meaning to say, free from biases. Okay? So, objectivity means researchers should remain totally value-free when studying. They should try to remain totally unbiased in their investigations. Example, researchers are not influenced by personal feelings and experiences. So, objective. And this means that all sources of bias are minimized and that personal or subjective ideas are eliminated. The pursuit of science implies that the facts will speak for themselves even if they turn out to be different from what the investigator hoped. So that is for objectivity. The third is what we call control. Okay, control means all extraneous variables need to be controlled in order to be able to establish cause, which is the IV or independent variable, and the effect, which is the dependent variable. Miss, what are examples of extraneous variables? Okay, inano ko na rin yung number 4. Halimbawa, BAP2A, say for example, of BAP2B is having their tawag dito, you're having an experiment, okay? So dahil kayo ang experimenters, may BAP2A doon na participants ng inyong study. And you've noticed na yung mga participants ninyo, yung BAP2A, hindi sila masyadong makasagot ng maayos. Kumbaga, irritable sila. Fidgety yung kanilang pag-upo, okay? On a face-to-face classroom setting to. Fidgety sila dahil naiingayan sila from the outside. So as an experimenter, ang gagawin mo to control extraneous variables, okay, move out of the room and tell these people who are hanging outside, talking too much, okay, loudly, okay, na iwanan muna nila yung place na yun because you are conducting an experiment. Kasi if in case na hindi mo makontrol yun, that will give you a different result from the study. Nakukuha ninyo? Miss, sobrang lamig. Okay? Another example ng extraneous variable, sobrang lamig ng room. Pag sobrang lamig ng room, ang gagawin ng estudyante, nako dahil giniginaw na, huhulaan na lang hulaan na lang yung sagot. Hindi na magbabasa. Bakit kamo? If it doesn't affect their grade, 'di ba? Bakit namin pagbubuhusan ng pansin yan? So, gusto na namin makalabas dahil malamig or mainit, any of the two. Malamig, mainit, that affects their manner of answering the test. So, you need to control it. Clear ba? Clear? Okay. Next, number 4 is hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing, again, an educated guess. This statement made at the beginning of an investigation that serves as a prediction and is derived from a theory. There are different types of hypothesis, the null and alternative, which need to be stated in a form that can be tested. Okay. So the number 5 is replication. Okay. Replication, ibig sabihin, pwedeng ulitin yung paper, yung research na ginawa ng author or authors. This refers to whether a particular method and finding can be repeated with different same people and or on different occasions to see if the results are similar. So halimbawa, gumawa ng papel si Anissa at saka si Jamie Louise. Okay? Mag-partner sila. Pinag-aralan nila kung ano ang epekto ng tawag dito, kung ano ang epekto ng pandemya, okay, sa kalusugang mental, okay, ng mga estudyante ng San Beda. Ngayon, pwede namang i-repeat ng susunod na batch, yung BAP 1B. Okay, kung meron man tayo, pwedeng i-replicate ng BAP 1B, even case, yung pag-aaral ni Marte at saka ni Miss Vigilia. Bakit kamo? Kasi nga, dito sa replication, hindi naman masama yun, okay? Kaya lang, pwede silang mamili ng different sets of people. Pwede silang mamili ng different location. Pwede silang mamili, basta pwede nilang palitan yung inyong participants, yung place where did you get them, okay? So, hindi siya, ang tawag dito, hindi siya bawal. Okay? So, in replication, if a dramatic discovery is reported, but it cannot be replicated by other scientists, therefore, it is not, or this will not be accepted. Yung extraneous variable po ba, parehas lang sa antecedent condition? You will know later, okay? If we get the same results repeatedly under same conditions, we can be sure of their accuracy beyond reasonable doubt. That means to say, di ba, yung in terms of consistency, talagang ano siya, talagang highly consistent siya. This gives us confidence that the results are reliable and can be used to build up a body of knowledge or a theory, vital in establishing a scientific theory. Next is predictability. Predictability, we should be aiming to be able to predict future behavior from the findings of our research. Ulitin ko, no, pwede siyang i-replicate pero wag i-plagiarize. Okay? So what are then the 6 characteristics of modern science? Number 1, we have empirical evidence. Number 2, objectivity. Number 3, control. Number 4, hypothesis testing. Number 5, replication. Number 6, predictability. So those are 6 characteristics of modern science. Now we go to the objectives of psychological science. Okay, parang just like any other sciences. Okay, the goals are to describe, explain, predict, control, or change the behavior. Tama? Ito yung goals ng psychology, di ba? Just like any other sciences, ganyan siya. Kasi nga, uniform naman siya, okay? Dahil science siya. When we talk about describing behavior, through describing the behavior of humans and other animals, we are better able to understand it and gain a better perspective of what is considered normal and what is not. Okay, that is description. In explaining the behavior, some theories naman focus on just a small aspect of human behavior, which is what we call the mini theories, while others serve as all-encompassing theories designed to explain all human psychology. Or, ang tawag naman doon, if we have mini theories, grand theories naman ang tawag doon. Now, for prediction, okay, successfully predicting behavior is also one of the best ways to know if we understand the underlying causes of our actions. So say, for example, if somebody said that, you know, if you will not change, if you don't stop smoking, ang prediction talaga niyan, di ba? Totoo na to, di ba? Probably you will not live longer, or kung hindi man, kung hahaba ang buhay mo, magkakaroon ka ng sakit, right? Di ba? Magkakaroon ka ng emphysema eventually, or wag naman sana, pero that would lead to lung cancer, okay? So you have to predict, no, the behavior. And then the last is to change, control or change behavior, which is psychology strives to change, to influence or control behavior to make constructive and lasting changes in people's lives. So again, the objectives, the goal or goals of psychological science is to describe, to explain, to predict, to control or change the behavior. What are the tools of psychological science? Number one is gathering of information objectively and systematically. This has been repeated, no? Objective, systematic. The second is conclusion based on evidence. Kasi nga, empirical siya, no? So, hindi ka po pwedeng isip lang kung ano yung gusto mong ilagay or kung gusto mong tawag dito, gamitin. It has to be evidence-based yan. Okay. There are three main tools of scientific approach. Alam niyo ba kung ano? Number one is via observations. Second is measurement. Dapat nasusukat. And the third is when you bring it in the laboratory experiment. Okay. Or we call it experimentation. Again, what are the three main tools of scientific approach? We have observation, measurement, and experimentation. So ano yung observation? Of course, you note. No, you record events kasi direct to di ba? Nakikita mo, isusulat mo. Only events that are observable can be studied scientifically. And observable behavior, just like what I mentioned, ito yung mga smoking, smiling, nail biting, talking, those are behaviors that can be observed. Okay, feelings, thinking, and problem solving. Ito naman yung mental processes or internal processes. Second is measurement. Measurement means you assign numerical values, okay, to objects or events according to conventional rules. Say, for example, if you want to say that you are in agreement with the statement, paano mami-measure? Di ba meron tayong 1, 2, 3, 4. Yung 4 being strongly agree, di ba? 3, agree. 2, disagree. 1, strongly disagree. Nakukuha? Because you assign numerical values to the level of your agreement. Kuha. Okay? Diba? Para ba ganito? I am beautiful. Okay? So, sabi, ang measurement mo, strongly agree, strongly disagree, or strongly disagree. Kuha ninyo? Okay? Both ends, yung strongly agree, yung 4, yung strongly disagree ay 1. The third is experimentation, which is the process undertaken to show predictability of events under specific conditions or situations. And this is used to demonstrate the conditions under which a particular behavior can be expected to occur with regularity. Manipulate systematically the settings to verify predictions, and predictions must be testable. Okay, dapat testable siya. Okay, again, what are the three main tools? We have observation, measurement, and experimentation. Now, ito yung tinatanong ni kanina. Kalimutan ko tuloy, okay? Ito yung tinatanong ni Mayela. Okay, antecedent conditions. Now, identifying antecedent conditions. Okay, now antecedent condition, this is the definition. This is the circumstance that come before the event. Okay, or the behavior we want to explain. So the answer, kung extraneous variable or antecedent condition is the same, it's not. Okay? So kasi yung antecedent condition, ito yung event, ito yung circumstance, 'di ba? Na nauna. Okay, bago yung behavior na gusto mong i-explain. So, identification of antecedent conditions allows predictions about future behavior. So, ito yung number 1, okay, na scientific explanation in psychological science. The second is comparing treatment conditions. So, this is impossible to identify all antecedents that affect behavior. Okay, napakahirap daw no i-identify kung ano yung nakaka-apekto sa behavior. At ang treatment can means specific sets of antecedent conditions and comparison of treatments to test explanation on behavior. So that is comparing treatment conditions. Halimbawa, gusto mo, masakit ang ulo ng isang tao. Napakasimple. Napakasimple example. Listen, masakit ang ulo mo. Ang una mong ginawa, pwedeng yung isa, treatment treatment. Pwedeng isa nagpahinga lang. Yung isa, uminom ng gamot. Are you getting my point? Treatment conditions yan. Pwede din naman parehong uminom ng gamot, kaya lang yung isa placebo lang. Nakukuha. Yung parang katulad, kamukhang-kamukha ng biogesic, pero wala siyang effect sa katawan. Pero naniwala ka na gumaling ka kasi uminom ka ng biogesic, pero in reality, placebo lang yon. Hello? You get my point? Okay. So, comparison of treatments to test explanation on behavior. Next is, ayan, antecedent, which is hereditary. Okay? Kita nyo yan dyan. Okay? Antecedent is hereditary. Treatment condition, okay? Being bullied. Okay? Yan yung isa. Treatment condition 2, boredom. Okay? So, yan yung, pag sinabing antecedent, going back, no? Ito yung circumstance prior. Okay? So, yan siya. Okay, quick review na tayo. We're heading towards the end. What are the 4 primary goals, objectives of scientific research? Anyone? Aha, kakabanggit lang.
Yes.
Yes.
Describe, explain, predict change.
Very good. It is to describe, explain, okay, predict, control, or change the behavior. Okay. So with that, dapat ang meron sa'yo ay, lagyan naman ninyo ng reaction na kailangan ko pang makiusap sa inyo. Ay, ba't parang wala akong reaction dito? Pag naka-presentation pala siya, wala siyang reaction. Pero very good. Good job, Mayala. Okay, next. What are the characteristics of modern science? Anyone? Yes, go, Jasmine Marie.
Miss, yung empirical, objectivity, yung control, hypothesis testing, replication, and predictability po.
Very good. Okay, tama. Okay, good job. Okay. Next, what are the tools of scientific approach? Yes, go, Jamie.
Miss, observation, measurement, and experimentation.
Very good. Galing. Okay. Good job. Okay, next. Okay. Empiricism versus rationalism. What's the difference? Yes, Aaron.
Miss, when we talk about empiricism po, most po siya, primarily based on our senses. Parang ganun po. Tapos when it comes to rationalism, it is mainly based on logic po.
Very good. Galing. Logic, reasoning, okay? So how about common sense psychology? What is this one all about? Tingnan natin how far you have learned common sense psychology. Naalala ninyo yung mga crystals? Do you believe in that one? John Nicole.
Miss, try po, yan po ba yung own observations and experiences po na natututunan natin from other people po?
Okay, so these are yung sinabi ko kanina, no? Friends, relatives, no? People in authority. Okay. So common sense psychology yan. What else? Thank you. Meron pa nag-raise ng hand. Okay, yes, Anisa.
Miss, yung common sense psychology is limit their accuracy and usefulness. Ito yung collected from people's everyday lives. Ganito, Miss.
Okay. Very good. Galing. Okay. Next. Ano pa ba meron ako? Operational definition. What is this all about? Yes, go Mayala.
This operational definition po is how a specific word is used in your paper, not necessarily dictionary definition.
Very good. Okay. Next is non-scientific sources of data. Yes, go Jasmine.
Miss, ito po yung data na galing po sa mga friends, relatives lang po.
Very good. Yes, Alisa, you wanna say something?
Miss, add ko lang din po na yun po galing po sa friends, relatives, mga media, books.
Yes.
Ito po yung mga sinabi nyo kanina na may mga feng shui and yung sa mga palm. And mostly po, hindi po sila palaging good source.
Very good. Congratulations. Okay. Ang galing. Okay, so ang impression sa akin ay meron naman kayong natutunan for today. Yan. So clap and puso na rin. Heart po kayo. Okay? So thank you so much for today. Unless you have questions.
So yung ano po, antecedent condition po, hindi po siya minamanipulate?
Ang antecedent conditions ay hindi binamanipulate. Meaning, what do you mean? Sige. Mayela.
Parang po halimbawa, yung binigay niyo pong example na yung pills po for migraine, yung isa po is halimbawa po, yung placebo po, pill, and the other group, yung control group po, wala po silang na-receive na treatment. So, hindi po siya parang ganon, yung binibigay pong treatment to influence behavior po.
Okay, as per definition, balikan natin yung ano. Okay. Wait lang ha. Ay. Okay. Again, yung antecedent conditions, sensya na kasi medyo nag-hang itong connection. Okay. Ang antecedent conditions, again, no, based from the given definition a while ago, sinabi ko, di ba, that this is the circumstance that come before the event, okay, or the behavior we want to explain. There is a specific behavior that you want to explain. However, prior to that behavior, there is a circumstance that come before that event. Okay? So, an example probably, okay? So, an example ng antecedent, okay, conditions. Okay? Yung tawag dito, circumstance that come before the event. Yung kanina kasi na binanggit ko, those terms are in respect to treatments, no, which will, of course, no, eventually mapapag-aralan naman natin yung mga treatment conditions na yan. So, an example, ano ba, saglit, ng antecedent conditions. In natural systems, okay, in natural systems, ano ba, rock type, soil structure, topographic, geometry, are common preconditions that affect, say for example, no, susceptibility to landslide occurrence. Whereas, no, parang ganito, paano ko ba sasabihin? There is a specific event, okay, before you explain the behavior, or yung explaining of what behavior that you would like to explain, parang ganun siya. So, here, when yung binanggit ko kanina, okay, na ulitin ko lang yung ano to, yung mga treatment conditions na yan. Okay? Yan yung ginagawa natin during experimentation because we want to test which, say for example, groups, no, who received a specific kind of treatment will be more, what's the term? Will be, ano bang term yun? Yung parang, yung kung sino sa dalawa, okay, say for example, if you're comparing, no, yung medicines, alin dito sa mga responses na to ang more acceptable, no, na yung in terms of perception ng tao, it would be more on the placebo ba, or it would be more on the real type of medicine. Pero again, yung both na yan, yung application of medicines as to whether it is a placebo or not, syempre that depends, no, on the nature of the study, of the nature of the study that you would like to measure. So, yung antecedent conditions, just like what you've mentioned, ano yung sinabi mo kanina? Kasi treatment yun, actually that's a different one. Kasi I'm referring to treatment on that case or in that case. Micaela, you want to say something? You're raising your hand.
Yes po, last week po kasi, January 31, absent po ako. And then nakita ko pa sa messenger, parang nagkaroon pa ng groupings po. And wala pa po akong group.
Sa reporting.
Apa.
Okay. Kala ko naman you will. Okay. Sige. No problem. Okay. Pero, balikan ko si Mayela. Kompleto na ba yung sa reporting natin? Lahat ba meron na? Kasi ano? Lahat meron na? Sige, I'll look at it na lang, double check ko siya, Micaela. And then kahit naman saan tong group, pwede kang naman sumama, ano?
Apa.
Okay, hindi ka naman mahirap ka groupmate. Okay. So, liban na lang kasi i-check ko muna kasi there is a specific number of people eh. So, kung halimbawa medyo yung topic ay medyo madami or medyo mabigat, explain, doon kita isasama. Okay? Pero just in case na yung mga topics naman ay medyo madali, okay? So, as is na lang yon. And then, I'll talk to the group na lang kung tatanggapin ka nila. Pero pretty sure naman dahil hindi ka naman mahirap ka groupmate, eh tatanggapin ka naman siguro nila with open arms. Okay. So, going back.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Going back to question of Mayela. Okay. There is a circumstance prior to what the behavior that you need to explain. Ang gusto kong sabihin dyan, kasi kung extraneous variable siya, if we will be equating that one with antecedent condition, I don't think that is the same. Kasi ibig sabihin, kung halimbawa, kung ang noise ay present na before you explain behavior, would that be mean antecedent siya? I think it's not. Okay, I think it's not. Pero kung halimbawa, although napaka-imposible nito, okay, there is a specific circumstance na kung referring to extraneous variable ha, na tinatanong mo kung parehas lang. Kung halimbawa mag-e-exam kayo sa pinakamalamig na lugar, sa Alaska, 'di ba? Kasi there is a circumstance na 'yun, malamig, nagne-negative, sabihin natin nagne-negative 0, although napaka-imposible naman na mag-exam ka doon, na mag-exam doon ka mag-conduct ng exam or doon ang experimenter mag-conduct ng exam. So there is a pre-existing or not pre-existing. There is a specific condition that comes before. Okay? Ito yung mga nauna eh. Like, kung malamig na lugar siya, tapos magko-conduct ka doon ng experiment. So yun yung circumstance before you explain the behavior. You're getting my point.
So, Miss, uncontrolled po siya. Uncontrollable, parang conditions.
somehow, okay, somehow uncontrollable. Kasi kapag ka-extraneous variables ang pinag-uusapan natin, although there are times that you could not control this well, sabi ko sa inyo, di ba, maingay. Pwede mo namang sabihin, oh, guys, out muna kayo dito. Huwag muna kayo dito. Kasi nag-experiment pa. May mga chances like, pag sinara mo yung pinto, di ba, if you're the experimenter, hindi naman sila aalis. Mag-iingay pa rin sila. So, yung somehow if you can control this one, ng tawag dito, ng 100%, parang ganun. Kasi there are circumstances like hindi mo talaga makontrol di ba? Diba? Para bang kahit gusto mo kontrolin, hindi mo talaga makontrol. Pero somehow, ang sinasabi naman sa experiment is at least mabigyan mo siya ng, ma-minimize mo, if not totally eradicated, ma-minimize mo, makontrol mo siya. Okay? So, ayun. Any more question? Okay. Sabi ni Cole na. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Okay. That in all things, God may be glorified. God bless you, and I'll see you when? Wednesday again. Okay. Ano na tayo with the leadership of Nicole and Paul Ann. Bye. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you,
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you po.